Okay. Got it.
Welcome to the Taste of Grace podcast,
A podcast where women aren't just acknowledged,
but to be truly heard and understood.
Taste of Grace is a space where you're never alone.
You belong here, and we're so excited to share this journey with you.
What's up, fam? Taste of Grace podcast. We're on a journey.
Welcome back to the Taste of Grace podcast. I'm Dorka, and this is Blanca. We're so happy to have you guys here. We have a really intricate topic to go over.
We can be here all day.
We could be here all day talking about this stuff. But we'll be talking about relationships today and navigating that as an adult.
In so many forms.
In
right?
every form.
In every form.
Yeah.
Because you think relationships is like immediately we're thinking in a intimate or like, what do you call that? Like a spouse or
like a love? Wait. Romantic.
Oh my gosh. I'm like,
so hard.
I'm like 2 words.
I'm like, love, romantic.
I couldn't think. I felt like I was playing gestures again. Whew, okay. We're off to a great start, guys, but we're not even talking about anything crazy just yet. Not just from a romantic standpoint, but like navigating friendships and relationships in general. Even like for me, I'm like a mother of an 11-year-old. Like relationships in general as an adult are very hard to navigate, and we want to talk about how to show up for them in the most healthy way, which we're no expert. I think we're still learning this, and this is an ever learning journey of showing up healthy in your relationships, but just the tools that we've picked up on that have helped us.
I feel like because we've been on such a trajectory of self-growth and like being more self-aware and wanting to become more healthy, like as a whole, you start to notice that within your relationships, like there's room for you to implement a lot of those tools. Like, how do you show up to a relationship in a way, maybe during conflict, that is going to be beneficial? I feel like the more adult you become, the more aware you are that relationships are complicated because you are two imperfect people figuring out life and all the things that it has, like, as things start to come at you and things you've never experienced. How do you navigate those things while someone is also navigating their own journey?
I know. I'm like, it's like what Constance says all the time. It's like not your bubble, not your mess, but like learning to navigate relationships while dealing with your own personal stresses can be hard. I was trying, as you're talking, I was like trying to think of, okay, if I had to sum up my hardest battle, like what would it be in relationships? And I literally went through all the things we wrote and I was like, oh, dang, I struggle with that. Oh, yeah. Codependency. Nope. Conflict. Nope. What's another one? Boundaries. Nope. I'm like, I literally can't pick one that I'm most bad at. But I'm learning, Dorka.
We all are. We are all very much like,
this is my affirmation.
I'm not codependent.
I'm like, I'm learning. Tell me I'm learning.
Validate me, please. I was like, correct.
Oh my gosh.
But that's how easy it is. I feel like you won't find any relationship that won't have some sort of navigation to do. I don't want to keep using navigate. I feel like that's only
we had a bet before we started. How many times can you say navigation? Let's see who says it the most. Navigation. Navigate. Okay. So where do we begin? I think like
okay, I know where.
Okay, tell me.
Okay, I one thing that I found out about myself that Constance really helped me figure out was the expectations that I was putting on other people in my life, whether that was like my husband or family members or friendships. And I just never realized that I'm putting expectations on people, and you're always going to be disappointed because you are not only putting pressure on someone to meet your needs and standards and like all of your expectations, but no one can really ever meet those because we are all imperfect. Like, we are going to have those times where we're not going to handle a situation in the best way, or I'm not going to feel heard or seen, or some sort of basically I'm placing them in the place of where God should be. Like, God is the only one that can fulfill all of my needs. And sometimes we put that pressure on our relationships. And then when you realize, oh, they don't fulfill all of my needs, they can't, no matter what relationship, then you're feeling disappointed.
Yeah.
And I remember she told me this specific quote, and it's expectations are premeditated resentments.
Oh my gosh. I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
She's told me that too.
Oh, really?
I'm like, yeah, it's so true. Because I feel like I can relate. I feel like wow, come on, Blanca, gather your thoughts. But
we're just struggling today.
You unlocked something. I'm like, I remember this conversation. But my mix of mess is my expectation, but also my lack, my inability to communicate the expectation to begin with. So it's like, not only am I placing an unrealistic expectation, but then I'm not saying anything, and I'm resenting like the person for not being able to meet it, like not reading my mind, basically, which is a whole like another level of disappointment and sadness. And like, who wants to go through life in every relationship feeling so disappointed, or feeling like you're getting the crappy end of the stick, or always having this mentality of like people missing your needs?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think that that's the way God intended it. Like, I even think of the simple scripture of the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Or in other translations, it says, I lack nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I feel like God created us to, one, solely rely on him, but also understand that everything that we're needing for this chapter in our life, whatever the circumstances are, whatever the challenges are, like he's equipped us to go through them with his support, with his help, of course. But like, we don't need really anything from anyone else to feel that fulfillment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I always think of like, he really is the source of just everything. It's like, that's why you always go to the source, because it's like everything that we need, he has and has equipped in us, like what you're saying. So, but I feel like when we have that sense of, I don't want to say priority, it's like when we place people in a pedestal or in the place of where God should be, then I don't know where I was going with that. Your eyes were distracting me.
What was I doing?
I was like, she's trying to read my mind. I was like, you were trying to pull it out of me. I could feel it.
I'm dead. They were so intense. I was like I can't breathe. I'm crying. Oh my gosh. I was like, Lord.
What did they put
over you?
Lord, give her the... I'm hot. I'm crying. I hope to keep this part in the episode, because this is really what
it really happens. Like, we're so out of it right now. Okay. No, but I feel you. When we place people in God's position, we are just looking to constantly be disappointed.
Correct.
But then we blame those people. have to stop. And
I'm sorry in advance to Hi Hello Labs
yes,
for all the editing.
my
We're gonna have to
goodness,
do this episode.
guys, no lie, this is such a side note, but I swallowed a toothpick. I swallowed a toothpick, and every time I talk, I could feel it. That shows you what a savage I am.
Somebody get her some water.
I have my water. I'll be back.
That was user error.
Oh my God. We got the giggles out, but this is what you were saying. You were saying that we try to like put people in the place of God.
Yes.
And we continually feel disappointed because that's never been their place to be. That should have never been their role in our life anyways.
Mm-hmm. This is a huge misconception. And I feel like in society, you always hear like, or think of when you, let's say, find your significant other.
I know where you're going with this.
Like, they complete you.
You complete me.
Yeah. And they, you know, are like the little missing piece to all of your problems, or like they like fulfill that side of loneliness and companionship and, you know, all these things that you feel like once I have this relationship or this boyfriend or girlfriend, like my life will be better and it'll be complete. But that's something that you like start idolizing, and then you realize I can't really go into a relationship unless I'm whole. Like what are your takes on something like that?
Well, I feel like I literally put that as one of the biggest relationship lies, is that I need someone to complete me, that I'm coming as one half and I need to be with someone to be my other half, and together we're one whole piece. But I love, like, I feel like even at church they were giving examples of this, but it's just like to show up to a relationship fully whole is like the best thing you could possibly do. You think of like going on an airplane and they always tell you like, hey, put on your mask before putting on a significant other or your child's mask. Why? Because what good are you to someone if you can't breathe, or if you're not taking care of yourself so that you can best provide for them? And I think that's how it is in a relationship. It's like when I can show up, and not that we're ever going to be perfect or we're ever going to be completely whole, right?
Whole doesn't mean
perfect. No. But it's with that self-awareness and that understanding that you can't make me feel safe, loved, whole, connected. Like that's called codependency, when you need that from someone else in order to provide. Yeah. And that's such a dangerous place to be, right? I feel like I'm just, a lot of this I'm learning because of my mind goes so many places, but it's like when you suffer trauma and like being a victim of abuse, like I think it created this pathway in me that I needed other people in order to feel those things because they were my sense of survival. And so it's like I've realized now that I enter a lot of my relationships, or have in the past, I'm doing much better, I feel like now, but with this codependent mindset that I need to feel safe, I need to feel secure, I need to survive, and I need you to provide this for me so that I can feel worthy or good or whatever, fill in the blank. But it's powerless, right? That's what Constance was telling us. It's like that's completely taking all opportunity, all choices, all like everything out of your court and giving it to someone else and say,
to have the reins over your emotions.
You get to decide
how worthy they make you feel. And exactly, you're like letting them have that control over that part of you. And I think that is such a good point because when I think of relationships where even in my marriage, we've been married for 11 years.
Holy
And I
moly.
know, a long time. But even sometimes I'm like, I can find myself, I don't always need validation, but I can find myself in some seasons being like, can you just like write something nice? Can you just like tell me something nice? Like, can you just like spill a little bit more of your feelings or something? And I'm like, but why? Like, I obviously I know, in this example, like how he feels about me. I know he loves me. He doesn't need to ask me to be his Valentine for the 14th year in a row. Like, but for some reason, sometimes you like want that validation. And I think it's different when like it comes out of, love and it's just like kind of a byproduct. These good things like
Yeah.
safety and these loving attributes from whatever relationship. But when it's your source of validation for your worth, and then it can get very dangerous because you're not always going to
100%.
get those things, but your worth doesn't change.
Yeah, it's
But for
like
some reason you're telling yourself a different story if you don't hear it, or if somebody's not continuously like providing that for you.
I think it's okay to communicate things that are your preference,
Mhm.
your love language, or have, as they say, in relationships, you could say like, hey, I really like words of affirmation, or I
Mhm.
like, but to count, like, that's just like sacrificial love. Like, you can learn each other and you can say, this isn't maybe my norm, but I know that it's something that Dorka likes. And I
Mhm.
want to do that as her friend because I care for her. But if I don't do that, like, it shouldn't be the defining factor of how much I love you, or you feeling like a downward spiral because you needed that affirmation from me in order to feel loved. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? So I think
Mhm.
that's where, for me, it's always the gray area that is the hardest. Because those are hard. Like, when I hear you talk, I'm like, but it's okay. You can like want that from Steven and like say, hey, can you every once in a while write these things? Like, I think that's okay. But I think it's the motive, it's the intention of
Correct.
behind why you're asking for those things that really needs to be peeled back and examined. Like,
Mhm.
that, the source of where you're kind of like pulling those things from can determine the reaction, or like the response that you get in exchange.
Mhm. That's a good point. Um so with relationships, um I think one of the things that I find myself struggling with the most is not being in control. Like, for example, if I'm growing in certain areas and I feel like, you go through different seasons and you want to pull people into like the place where you're at sometimes, and you have to understand that like other people grow in different areas, not necessarily in the way that you do or at the same pace, whether that could be romantic, that could be a friend, that could be even a family member that you love. But even navigating those things like is a source of conflict, because once you start growing in areas and you want to so badly show up to your relationships in a healthy manner, you're not always going to receive that. So, one of the biggest struggles has been like, what are those boundaries? Because when you are navigating these relationships and you start to deal with some conflict, and we learn these things like love unconditionally and love your neighbor as yourself. At what point do you say in these relationships like boundaries have to be made, or it's time like to move on, or maybe God has something different, or
Mm-hmm.
he wants to take me in a different direction in this season of my life. So,
um which I'm going to pocket my question to you, because I want to know something that you touched on control. Like,
okay.
what's the source of that and why do you think you have it? But we'll get back to that, because what you're asking now, I'm like, is my biggest, I feel like one of my biggest struggles, which I'm trying to express, is the gray area, right? And I think the biggest lesson that I feel God is teaching me in this time is kindness and boundaries can coexist.
Mm-hmm.
Setting a standard for what you tolerate, and loving someone can coexist. It's like the example that I don't want to keep bringing Constant. I'm like, she's not here, but but it's like this example of even saying like, okay, my friend has a alcohol problem and she's voiced it, right? She always drinks too much in it. Not always, but she tends to drink too much and has said like, hey, I know, but I don't have a problem with it. So a boundary would be like, hey, I'm going to drive separately. And if things get out of hand, or if that's the direction that you choose, which is fine, if that's what you choose, I'm going to exit. Like, I'm going to take myself out of this because it makes me uncomfortable. Rather than saying like, you can't do this. Like, if you do it, our friendship, like, you can't force someone out of our control, like, to try to change them to do something that you prefer or would make you comfortable or make you feel safe. That's not your bubble. That's not like your place to tell them what to do. But you can put boundaries and still out of love, respect them and express them, but do them for yourself, right? And so that's such a fine line because like you said, in the church, I feel like I want to be a good girl. I want to love everyone. I want to
never give up on someone.
Yeah, be a good Christian and like love the way that God loves. Like, just all these things go through my mind. And so when I think of placing boundaries, when I think of disappointment, letting people down, saying no, like all of those things just feel so uncomfortable at times for me because I feel like they're contradicting like who I should be as a Christian, right?
Because you're like, what are the limits? And there's no clear line.
Yeah.
And every situation is so different.
I want to pull up my phone because there's a scripture. These are some scriptures that I pulled that were overall on a like friendship theme in my devotional. And I just felt like so impacted because some of these, like Proverbs 13:20 says, whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. 1 Corinthians 15:33, do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. And Proverbs 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend. And it's all this idea of like when we choose our friends, when we choose these relationships around us, like they do affect our future. And going back to the idea of like, I don't think that the Lord is like, you can't have boundaries because it's ungodly. I think it's more like, hey, these are things that are honoring to me and that you're choosing. The intention again, the motive again is because you want to be honoring to yourself and who I am in your life. And they can coexist. You can do things out of love. Even as iron sharpens iron, like that's a big one because I feel like before I would just get offended about things. Like if you were to tell me, we've had these conversations where you'll be like, hey, but don't jump into it too quickly. You could be someone that can like oversee certain things because you just jump into it. And old me would have been like, like
I'm a grown woman.
Like, what are you trying to say? Or whatever it is, like you feel like any type of rebuke or any type of you're sharpening me because you love me. And you're choosing to bring these things up because you desire to help me grow. So like, I don't know if I went on a tangent, but I just feel like being a Christian and having boundaries, being a Christian and dealing with conflict are not two separate things. And that is, I feel like, a big misconception. Maybe not for everybody, but I know that there's people that struggle with being a pleaser and
disappointing the people that they love.
Yeah.
Because when you are wanting to implement a boundary or you're navigating these relationships, on the other end of that, you're like, do I lose this friendship because of something like this? Or will they get mad at me? Will I be disappointing them?
And it happens.
And not everyone is okay with boundaries being set on them. you know, not everyone likes to not have, you know, the same amount of access that they've always had, or but if it seems to be harmful in any way, like be affecting us in a negative way, I feel like that's where discernment comes in. And I feel like that's when really God's voice in our life, and, you know, that peace that surpasses all understanding. I feel like that's like where his Holy Spirit comes into and leads us to be knowledgeable of these things and aware. And we always have tools and we always have choices. And sometimes you just have to, you know, trust in God to navigate a lot of these, because there's so many things that we just don't know, or we don't know how they're going to pan out.
And I feel like we need to, I'm like speaking to myself, but like stop taking things so personally.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness. I'm like, in general, like I see that a lot in relationships. It's like, if someone does put a boundary, like try to see it from a perspective outside of yourself, and like not everything is a personal attack, not everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I speak to myself in this moment too, that I feel like I take things personally because I care a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
it could even come from a good place, but sometimes it turns into a not healthy place, because I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
that was not about me. Why did
Mm-hmm.
I make that about me? Like if someone needs a boundary because it's helping them grow, or it's helping them find their voice, or it's helping them find their own sense of like how to navigate certain, we're back with navigate, but it's like, what does that have to do with me? Why do I have to say it as, oh, so they don't want to show me that it's like a me problem? Like it's not
Mm-hmm.
that personal. And I think that could be helpful too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
It's true, because the reason we take it personal is because we feel like our self-worth
it's
is in
tied.
attack. It's like tied into whether someone approves of us, or is hanging out with us, or speaking to us in a certain way. But I feel like I have a scripture for you.
Look at
And for
us
everyone
coming
watching,
prepared with our scriptures.
this one's really good because this kind of ties in almost everything that we've touched on. It's Jeremiah 17:5-7, which is, curses the one who trusts in man, who draws strength from mere flesh, but blesses the one who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in him. I think that's just so good, because that can tie into
Yes.
why we're seeking our relationships, romantic or not. Like, is it because of we want validation? Is it for our self-worth? Are we lonely? Do we become codependent? All these things. And God is like, if you're trusting and putting your trust, or you're relying on anyone but me, you're foolish. Like, because you will be disappointed, because that won't fulfill what you need. Like, he's the
It's so
only
good,
source
Dorka.
of hope and anything that is missing in our lives. So that is really such a good reminder, because that can be inserted even to a job, anything that you're finding or trying to find your self-worth and
In
worthiness in.
Yeah.
He's literally saying, I know you're going to try to seek them from these things, and it's kind of easy to, because they're here in their flesh, but that's not where you're going to find it.
Yeah. That is so good. I feel like that's the beauty, one, about the word of God. There's so many nuggets in there that when you really like break them down, you're like, oof, that's some good stuff. But I feel like even the goodness of like who God is in our life, like he's always challenging us and wanting us to see a different perspective. But it's like as plain as day. It's like anything that you try to place we're back in his position, is just you're gonna feel let down. You're gonna feel that disappointment, because it was never meant to be that way anyways. And man, I had a thought. You were saying something and it was like at the tip of my mind.
The tip of your mind?
Yep, the tip of my tongue and the
top
front of my the front of my tongue and
your
the tip of my mind.
Fallopian. Wait, no, frontal lobe.
Are your ovaries like feeling this conversation?
I was thinking of Constance. Keep mentioning frontal lobe.
Please and fallopian.
Fallopian. This is why I can never
Oh my
talk
gosh.
live.
Oh, I love it. It's so good. Oh, okay, but it helped me remember. It went to my fallopian tube and I remembered what it is that I wanted to say. I wanted to say that
this is on Do Not Disturb and it's still vibrating.
oh, I keep hearing it. That the reality is that our insecurities and our fears stem from our lack of control and the unknown, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the times in our relationships too, it's like we tend to connect or be codependent on things that we just know have, like, whether it's you've known him for a long time or you guys have walked through a lot of things together. But the coolness and the thing, this is what I was gonna say, like the goodness of God is that he can change things overnight. He can do like a miracle in your life. Like, let's say things don't look how you want them to in your job, or you feel lonely, or like whatever, insert whatever it is that the hardship is. When you put focus on those things and you try to fill them with the job or the child or the relationship, it continues to leave you empty. But when you put all your trust in the Lord, that is when you start seeing the things shift, like in its perfect timing. And I've experienced that dead on, where I'm like, the minute I shift my focus from the one thing that felt like I was losing control of or needed to let go and surrender, it was the moment that God stepped in and was like, finally, like now I can direct this relationship in the way that it needs to go, or finally I can put things in order, like in your life in the way that they should be, because you were putting too much attention on validation and who you are on social media or who you are to this person, like all these things that do not really matter. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was when you were talking, I was like, that scripture made me think of that, because I'm like, we put all this emphasis on man, on people, but really what God can do in our life is limitless, and we just need to shift our energy and our focus back to him.
Source.
He's the source.
He's the source.
He's the living water.
Is that our segue into food?
Oh, and acai bowl would hit.
That would actually sounds really good.
I think so, right?
Yeah.
I think so, because
thanks to Purple Ocean, our amazing sponsors, and
we love
they brought us some beautiful, amazing, delicious acai bowls today.
Yeah. You know what I was thinking? I'm just going to say it on here because you guys can give input, but it gets a little tricky. Like, food is such a huge part of what we're doing, and we feel like in our lives, it connects us. We've shared all this of like community, and like we love, it brings the best conversations around food and all these things. But on a podcast where some people are listening in, I'm like, the last thing I want to be is an ASMR like episode of like you hearing me chew food. That would be my nightmare. So I was like wondering, I'm like, maybe it's like the video segment has the food, but then on the non-video like podcast element, we cut out the food. But we still like we have the food. I know, but like we shorten it. No, I'm saying like the podcast. Oh, but you know, like on podcasts, you don't see the video; you just listen to the episode. I wonder.
I always watch the video in the podcasting. Like on Spotify, you can watch the video at the same time.
But on the ones that you can't watch video, like I just hit podcast and I listen. I don't watch a video.
Oh, because is that a separate app?
That's like the.
Because I only watch. Do YouTube or Spotify, so those are
my like on the podcast app. It's like the, how do you say, like how podcast was formed was like talk radio. It's like meant to be just consumed by hearing it, and a lot of people listen to them like at work or things like that. So I'm like, maybe this won't be in there, maybe it will, but I think just ultimately, ay Dios mío, there's so many of them. Yeah.
Yes. Which one do you want? Peanut butter? What are they?
I don't know, but
that's kind of what we wanted to be part of our dynamic.
The fallopian tube took me out.
You know what's funny? My cards are full of makeup. Every time I go like this. Tell me you're a makeup artist. Something that was kind of shocking too. Right now we have a Bible study with some of our friends, and we're going through a really good book. It's called Jesus Through the Eyes of Women, and we are on chapter 3.
Yes.
And it's about nourishment. And honestly, I didn't expect there to be a whole chapter just on that. And it's interesting because I do feel like food in general could be a very complex relationship for a lot of different people for different reasons. But it was used as such a good example in the Bible. Like Jesus made a point to make it a thing. For example, like the Last Supper, the loaves of bread, water into wine, which was like his first miracle. Like so many miracles involved that that it kind of blew my mind. How
I agree. I feel like I was reading it and I had a big smile on my face because I was like, I feel like I was thinking of the podcast and Taste of Grace and the heart behind what we wanted to do. Not that we do always want to eat. Like one thing we're going to do is eat. But it was more this concept of like understanding that the best conversations happen around the table. There's vulnerability, there's love, there's happiness when you're eating good, delicious food. And it's a part of our culture. But to see the correlation in the book, like with Jesus was like, it felt like a cherry on top. Like it was so beautiful. All right. A huge thank you to our sponsors, Purple Ocean, Cultivo Coffee, Josiah. Thank you so much for always providing this delicious food. If you're ever in the Orlando area, make sure you check them out. And if not, just drool over our delicious bowls. That was a nice little hit.
Yeah.
Right?
We needed the sugar.
So that was delicious. And to tie this segment up, I feel like it'd be nice to do a little self-reflection. Let's do some self-reflection here. Girls, gals, people watching. Let's I want you to ask yourself this question, but I'm going to ask it to Dorka and then she's going to ask it to me. But what are you waiting for someone to give you that you haven't given yourself?
Okay. I would say this wasn't always one that I was
that you've struggled
always
with.
Yeah,
like
expecting or needing from someone else. But I feel like in this season of my life, this past year, I've been grieving the loss of my dad. And I can't even say that without getting emotional.
As soon as it came out of your mouth, I was like, and my lip is shivering.
I think like without knowing that it's what I needed, I think I want comfort. And I think
you've been expecting.
Yeah. I think I without
not intentionally, because it's never intentional.
Exactly. It's not intentional. But I do find myself feeling like, can someone just make me, like, remember that I'm going through this and just, like, make me feel more comforted? Or, I don't know. Sometimes, like, again, without meaning to, but sometimes when I'm experiencing, like, a really just sad day, or it's hard when other people are not on that same level. Because you're always trying to be like, personally me, I always want to be like optimistic and happy, or like never want to feel like the burden or anything like that. So when I'm experiencing these emotions and they just kind of like rile up in me, I'm just like, can someone just like pull up and, say something comforting or validate this, like what I've experienced this past year? And I'm like starting to like self-reflect on that more, because I do find myself in my closest relationships specifically like getting frustrated when, you know, I'm like, aren't you sad? Today's like the 1 year of my dad passing. Like, don't like, do you even care about him? You know, or just like
Yeah.
little things like that. Yeah, I'm needing either to feel validated or for someone to understand my pain or like comfort me. But it's no one's, people can give you those moments, but it's not up to anyone to really fulfill those things. You know, God really is the source of our peace and comfort and hope. And I think it took me a year. Obviously, I've never grieved like this before. So it's just been a roller coaster. But I think just being reminded in this season, God reminding me that He really is the source and the source of anything good, you know, and that has really been making me self reflect, like why I'm needing these kind of validations or examining my heart and my motives. So, not to,
It's so good. I feel
yeah.
so proud of you, friend, because I was like very vulnerable, but it helped even me put it into perspective, the question asked, because it's like everything we're trying to hit on and teach on and like give wisdom on and help others in is that you just tied it all into a bow. Because it's like, is it okay to receive comfort from people you love? Is it okay for your friends and your family to show up for you? Of course. But how beautiful is it that we don't lack anything inside of us, and that God is like, hey, I'm here too. And together, like, we have more than enough to overcome this hardship or this chapter of life. And that's a beautiful reminder. So
Thank you.
we love your dad.
My puppy.
Tu papi's tan sweet.
So cute. Okay, let me ask you the question.
And that's an episode.
You're not running away. I didn't write the question down. What was it?
Top.
Okay. Question for you. Same question. What are you waiting for someone to give you that you haven't given yourself?
Why did my heart start beating fast? I'm like, I should have thought of
It's
that
like
question.
you already knew.
I did it, but I didn't think through the answer.
That's how I felt when you put me on the spot.
I don't like it. What are you waiting for someone to give you that you haven't given yourself? Oh, everything. I feel, if I were to be transparent or honest about that question, I would say worthiness, or like a sense of worth, self-worth. And I can see that I'm looking for exterior things to somehow confirm that I have worth in some way.
Yeah, like you feel like it's like the source of a lot of
I'm like, whether
things.
it's my career or my wanting to be loved and in a relationship, or my mom guilt and like wanting to be enough there. Like, I think the overarching theme is like hoping that something exterior of my life, like someone or something, can like validate me and let me know that I'm enough. And I think I've tried, but I don't think I've fully given that to myself. Yeah. And I feel like that's my work to do. It's a never ending. I feel like showing up
really
for yourself
ending.
and like trying to be this girl that's like I think I told you yesterday. I had a moment yesterday, but I was like, I feel like I want to be this like wise, God-loving, God-fearing, like woman of God. Like I said God like 500 times, but like I'm like wanting to show up in like my whole strong God-fearing self. But sometimes I just feel like a little girl and I'm like, can someone just hold me? I just need a hug. Like, I feel sad or I feel wounded. Like, can someone just tell me that I'm enough? But it's the same thing. Like, there's nothing this world has to offer me that's ever going to fill that hole. Like, I have to trust that I'm enough in him.
Exactly. And I think once you really grasp that, like, he is the source of everything, like being loved, being worthy, being comforted, and all these things, like he is, there's just confidence in that. Like once you really truly believe that it all comes from him, then we just gotta live in it. I think that's the hardest part. It's like, because your mind will take you to where you're like, I need, but God's like, I've given you, it's already in you. You just have to train your brain to see that, rewire.
Yeah. Or even like you think you need. No, you want and you think you need. But if you only saw the full picture, you would understand that you actually don't need that. And that leads to more destruction or problems or like he knows. Man, I don't know how we went to laughing
had a therapy session
so hard to then like borderline. I'm like, I just want to give you a hug. And Tay, this has been an amazing journey already that we've gotten to do together.
Yes. And it's so nice to be able to talk about these things because without meaning to, you really have to self-reflect when you're talking about all of these different topics because it's not always something that you sit down and examine and break down. And like, I honestly didn't even realize that about myself this past year. I feel like I hold myself to, in my mind, a standard where I'm like, I don't need no one. Like, I don't need validation from anybody. I don't care. But then I realized I really did need something this year. Like, without realizing, I got to the point where, yeah, I was no longer really looking to the source. I was really relying on other people to provide that for me. And yeah, it really is so eye-opening. Just even having these conversations, even though we talk every day, it's so nice to reflect in these moments and
100%.
learn more about ourselves.
We're iron sharpening iron.
Thank you so much for watching and listening to us. I hope that you guys were able to relate and connect, and hopefully we're able to take something with you from these conversations. Like, share, subscribe.
Whoop, whoop.
We
Taste of Grace pod.
Show yourself a little bit of grace. A lot of it.
Yes. And make sure you tune in to the next one. Peace out.